Hello everyone, and thank you for taking this class. This is our third meeting. In the first class we've done a general introduction, and then we've seen the importance of having a clear positive vision of the future and talked about some of the definitions of the course, like what is innovation, what is strategy. Today we take a step back and we ask ourselves, why do we need those innovation and strategy and a positive vision? So we're going to talk a little bit about one big problem that we have today, and it has to do with something that we do every day, and it has to do with things that we have and that we possess, our stuff. And this lesson will be divided in two. First of all, we'll try to understand what is wrong with the stuff that we have, and the second part will be why is it so hard to live without our stuff. And we'll be using different articles and some images to understand better these two issues. So we can start now with what is wrong with the stuff. We all love our stuff. We all have a lot of things, from car, computer, cell phone, our clothes, anything that we have. But we have a lot of it, and we have more and more of it every year that passes. So what is wrong with it? We use it, we need it. Where is the problem? Problem is, first thing first, stuff uses energy. And it doesn't use energy only when we use it, like here I have my computer and it's attached to electricity. We also use electricity energy when we produce our stuff. How much do we need to produce our stuff? So there are many questions that we need to make in order to understand what impact stuff has on the environment, how much it takes to produce it, and then how long do I use it? When do I throw my stuff away? How do I throw them away? Do I recycle them? So first, we can deal with the energy issue, and we're going to understand how do we evaluate an object with what is called life cycle analysis. So every object, everything that we have, that we own, has its own life cycle. It begins somewhere, it ends somewhere. And along this life cycle, we can see the sustainability, the environmental sustainability, the economic sustainability, and the social sustainability. What are the main phases of the life cycle of a product? Begin from the beginning. First, we have to make the raw material that is needed for this article. What are raw materials? Are materials that, for example, we dig from the ground, like minerals. We can grow this material, like wood, like cotton. And then we need to transform them in order to make them raw material that is ready for the next phase. And this is how we make glasses, metals, ceramics, for example. We have to calculate the energy needed to grow something. If you think about a tree needs energy to grow. And the energy cost of this phase also includes the transportation that we need to take this raw material and bring it to a place where we're going to be producing the parts that are going to be the components of our stuff. So this first part already includes energy and already include the work of people, as we will see further in the lesson. When we have the raw material, we are ready for the next phase. And the next phase, of course, is production. So now that we have everything we need to make single parts for our stuff. Think about the computer, for example. Seems quite simple, but it involves a lot of small stuff that then are combined together. So we have factories where you can do it. Some things are made by hand. Many people work in factories producing our stuff. And of course, we need power. We need electricity to produce this stuff. If we have a machine, we have a machine that is attached to electricity. If it's people, it's the energy of those people, their health care, and so on and so forth. Also here in the production phase, we have transportation costs. And we include them when we calculate the energy of the production phase. Here you can see some images of factories that are producing cars, for example, or computers, for example. They're quite huge. Then, of course, the product comes to our house, to our hands. It passes through the shop, grocery, where we go and buy things, and of course it is a very important phase. A supermarket, there is also consumption of light, of electricity. But let's talk about the use. Some of our objects use power. A hairdryer uses power. Our refrigerator uses power. Our oven uses power. How much power they use, that depends on how they've been designed, how they've been produced, and it is important also to understand how much do they give us. So if I produce a car, I've used a certain amount of energy, but then the car gives me energy to move me from one place to another. So I need to know that in order to balance the calculation of how much energy have I been using. Some stuff do not use power. Home, for example, this table here does not use power anymore. So in this phase, we will have zero energy. Nevertheless, it's quite important to know if we're going to be using power or not. Because if we're consuming a lot of energy before and then the object stands still, it doesn't give me energy back. So this goes all into calculation. Last thing, we don't know how long these objects are going to be used in my house. We will talk about that, but at a certain point we will throw it away. Some things we throw away immediately, like the packaging of our stuff. As soon as we open the package, we throw it away. Okay, so this means that the life cycle ends very quickly when we arrive home. Other objects last longer, like computers or like a refrigerator. Other objects depend on how well they work and also how often do I want to change them. And this will be exactly the second part of the lesson when we will talk about our habits in using stuff. Now, when I throw it away, what do? Do I recycle it? So in some way, I'm making a circle life cycle. So some of the materials are going back to the life cycle and are going to be new materials used for new objects, or do I just throw it away? Landfill. Do I burn it up? When I burn it up, what happens? I can gain some energy, but I can also produce pollution. So the disposal part of our stuff is also very important to understand the life cycle. Again, we have transportation here. We have to transport the thing that we throw away, and the transportation costs in energy-wise are also calculated in the life cycle. So here I gave you a really simple life cycle. We can make it a little bit more complicated if we put inside, for example, the whole part of distribution, advertisement, for example. Also, advertisement has a lot of energy consumption into it. If you think about it, it's also produced other stuff. And to calculate the energy consumption in a life cycle is something that is not so easy. And what we're going to do is that we're going to make a small exercise in class when we see each other next time. So you will be able to understand by the exercise how do you need to calculate it and also how difficult it is. And we will try to do it for different objects so that you can understand how does it change when I throw something immediately away, or if it lasts, or what is it made from. Okay? But energy consumption is only one part of the problem. Because for now I've been talking about how much power we use, but I didn't speak, for example, about the people that work in the process. And we all know, even though there are things that we don't want to know sometimes, they're uncomfortable to hear, but people, for example, working on getting raw materials are very often working in very bad conditions. Very often we have our factories in developing countries where people get paid just a very, very small amount of money. Sometimes we have it in our own country and still people do not have decent contracts. So what happens with those people? And this is exactly the social sustainability that we've discussed last time. So how do I treat people in this product life cycle? We cannot ignore the presence of people in the product life cycle. And again, what about pollution? So this is environmental sustainability, not only because the energy we consume, but what do we leave after us? When we produce a lot of wood, what happens to our forests? So many, many questions that we have that has to do with our product life cycle, and these are products that we all use all the time. And the second part of this lesson is, why is it so hard for us to live without stuff or with less stuff? Because it's easy to say we don't need a lot of stuff and we don't want a lot of stuff, but in the end, when I go outside of the classroom and I go and have a stroll around the city, I may buy something. I may go to a clothing shop and buy something new. I may buy a new gadget. I may want to change the computer because it's quite old. So why is it so difficult for us to live with less? And to answer this question, we're going to review an article by Clive Hamilton about consumerism. So Clive Hamilton will explain in the article, and I will follow this article, how consumerism is related to our identity. So it's not your fault or my fault if we cannot live with less stuff, but it is something that we've grown on and we have it somewhere inside us. Clive Hamilton's first argument in the article is that actually to achieve sustainability is no longer so much a technological or scientific problem, but a cultural and a social one. So what is he saying? He's saying if we can work on the behavior of people is where we're going to reach solutions. Because you can make green products that are very sustainable, that you can recycle in the end, but if we continue to consume them in the rhythm that we're used to, then there's no use to make green products because we're going to throw them away anyway. I got some images that I think are quite important for this movement. So you can see here, I'd say crazy people in line on a Black Friday waiting to buy some things. People fight over things to buy just before Christmas, as if holiday spirit was all about buying presents. And I think that we have to reflect when we see those images and think, where are the values that we're going to? What are we doing? And I think Hamilton is right when he's saying, if we can work on the origin, so not try to cure the specific energy problem of a product, but try to work before that. And I think this is something that is related to history. It's not something that, it's not all our fault. Somewhere, somehow consumerism was designed. I don't know if you know a lot about the history of production and of stuff, but stuff is actually a very positive thing for humanity. I'll give you the example of the washing machine. The washing machine was invented to ease a work that was a very, very difficult household work for women. Women spent hours and hours to wash things without washing machines. Of course, Sometimes you didn't even have water at home, and you needed to go out, and you needed to go through very elaborated passages. You had to warm the water, and you have to really work along it with your hands. Now you are here in Milan. If you go in the Navigli area, you can still see lavatoi. It's an area where people came to wash their clothes. So we're talking days of work here. And what happens when the washing machine comes, it is freedom for women. It's freedom for women to do something less and maybe, who knows, go and learn something. And in fact, the washing machine is very, very closely related to human rights movement. It's not, of course, the only one, but it's something that is very important. So stuff somehow was something that gave us the liberty and the freedom to do something more. But stuff in the origin was produced to last. And the producers, if we think about Ford, for example, with the first cars, were really happy if they could offer a product that you can fix on your own and that can last years. And it was considered a quality product if you had these elements inside. What happens through the years is that the way we see economy is very much related to how much stuff we produce and so how much stuff we buy. And then there is a shift from production to consumption. So it's no longer about having one good product, but having many, many products that compete with each other and that can, yes, improve in time, also in quality, but also be sold because we think it's a new fashion, for example. Fashion industry is a great industry to discuss because now it's obvious for us that we change our clothes not because they do not fit us anymore, but because we don't want them anymore. And same things basically is happening with our phone or with our computer or with the furnishings that we have in our house. So this passage from production to consumption is very, very important in history. And there is one word that I would like to introduce here, and it's obsolescence. So what makes a product end its life? And we have designed obsolescence and we have perceived obsolescence. The obsolescence of an object, of course, if it breaks down, if now I take a glass of water and I put it on the computer, then I have to throw it away and I have to get another one. But sometimes I just perceive this obsolescence because someone is telling me that there is a better object, maybe just a newer version of it. And we are very much used to that, that we don't even think about it as a problem. Of course, I have to change my phone. There was an iPhone 5, and now there's an iPhone 6 and iPhone 7, and so on and so forth. And this brings us to the third part of Hamilton, where he is saying that actually we as consumers, we actually don't know a lot about what we consume. So we are influenced a lot by advertisement if we want it and if we don't want it. We are surrounded by it. Even if I don't own a television and I don't look at the advertisement in the middle of my movie, I still have it in the underground. I see it everywhere. And it influences me. We watch a quantity of advertisement that is incredible. And it's not only advertisement, it's also what is happening around us, because we are part of a society and we see how society works, and it's very difficult to stay behind somehow. So it's part of our job to have the newest phone, it's part of our job to have the newest car, it's part of our character, it's part of our identity. And and this is another part of Hamilton's article, we see ourselves as part of a community, but only until a certain point. So we watch what is going on around us, but we don't consider our actions as part of collective actions. So it's very hard to understand what is wrong with buying a new shirt when I think that it's only me who is doing that, when I don't think about it in a collective way. Our personal identity is so much influenced by what we have that changing the way we consume means touching our identity. And this is the answer to the question, why is it so difficult to live without the stuff? Because if you tell me today to have less stuff or to have none of something, it means that you are touching my identity, who I am. I am defined by the stuff that I own, by what I wear, by what I use, the way my house looks, the way my car looks. Now, of course, I'm not here to tell you that it's impossible, because our course is all about social innovation. And we've said last lesson that we have to have a positive view of the future. So this lesson, as I told you in the beginning, is talking about a problem. And it's a real problem and a very difficult one. And if you remember the innovation scheme, we really need to have radical innovation to have some solutions to that without it being something extreme. So without thinking that we have to go and preach everyone to lose everything that they have, we need to find some creative solutions for this problem. And this is exactly what we're going to do. So in class, beyond our exercise on energy consumption, we're going to think about alternative to our consumerism culture. We're going to find some best practices and then develop small strategies that could bring us eventually to a project. I leave you also with some other links for other internet sites or movies that you can watch in order to be more prepared for our lesson. And I see you in class. Bye.